Welcome back. In this video we're going to be working with SAS, and what we will do is we'll do a basic introduction into the SAS software, and in order to run the regression we're going to use the same data that we employed earlier in Excel and in Stata. Here is the dependent variable, here are the independent variables that we used earlier in order to get the coefficients, the standard errors, the t-statistics, and we also worked on the ANOVA table, the R-square, and the F-statistic. We're going to be using this Excel file in order to verify that we get the same results both in Excel as well as in SAS, just like we did with the previous program when we worked with Stata. I have created the for reg sheet over here that we will use in order to import the data into SAS. So let us go to SAS. When you open SAS, you're going to see these windows in front of you. The first one is the editor window where you usually write the program. Then you have a log window where SAS tells you if everything that you estimate is right or not. And then hidden behind it, you're going to find an output window where the results are displayed. I usually like to make those a little bit smaller so I can see all three of them at the same time. On the left hand side you have the results in the Explorer sheets, and I usually like to toggle to the details view and the tree view so I can view everything. Now what we want to note here is this folder over here that says work, where all the temporary files, all the temporary data that SAS creates is placed. Right now it is empty, there is no data because we have not imported any data. So our first task is to import the data. And the way that we're going to do this only for the first time until we save the code is we're going to ask file import data, and SAS is going to ask us what type of file we want to import. As you can see, we have many options, but the file that I want to import is currently under the format XLSX, so I'm just going to click the first option, and it's going to ask me where the file is located. So I'm going to go to where it is located in my computer. This is in C temp YT, and it is an XLSX file, not an XLS file. And this is the file, Regression YT. I'm going to press OK. And now SAS is asking me which sheet I want to import. And if you remember correctly, I told you that the data is in the sheet called for reg, where I have isolated the data without any of the calculations that we did earlier. So I'm going to press next, and now I'm going to name the file. I'm going to name it temp1. You can put any name that you want to. So this is my first temporary file that I'm creating, and I can press finish if I want to, and it will just import. It will show the data up here. But instead, I will press next, and it's going to ask me if I want to save anywhere the statements. So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go to browse. I'm going to place it right at C temp YT. And I'm going to call it temp1 SAS. So let us save this, replace, and finish. Now as soon as that is done, as you can see, first of all, the log file has told us that I have successfully imported 10 observations and 5 variables, and now we can double click over here in order to see the data. There it is, exactly the same data that we had earlier. I can go ahead and write the regress command here. However, I will open the file that I have just saved. And this is the data that we just created, the proc import command. And out work temp1 means that I wanted to create a file called temp1 where the data is going to be located. And I wanted to place it in the work directory. So there's my work directory over here, and there is my temp1. The second line of command asks for the path in my computer, and I also have to give SAS the information that it's an Excel file and I wanted to replace any previous imports. This is the information on the sheet name, which is followed by a $sign. And the command get name simply tells SAS that in the first line there are names of the variables. Mixed no implies that the data is either numeric or character, but it is not mixed. So now I have the temp1 directory, and I can ask SAS to directly do a proc reg, a procedure regression. However, I want to show you that in SAS you can always create more directories as you need them in your analysis. So I'm going to say data temp2. So I'm going to create a new temp semicolon, which is going to be a set of the old data set, temp1. And I'm going to write proc reg model. So I'm invoking the regression procedure, and I'm going to tell it that my dependent variable is y and my independent variables are x1, x2, and x3. I could add some options, but we have not talked about them yet, so I'm just going to leave it to that. I'm just going to press run, and now I can either press run and it's going to run all of the program, or I can highlight the part that I want and right click and press submit selection. As soon as I do that, you can see over here that the new temp2 file has been created. I can double click on this and I can see the data. Since I have not changed anything, the data is exactly as it was in temp1, but we're going to see in future videos how we can utilize this feature that SAS has. And now I have my results displayed in two windows, in the output window and the results viewer window. I can toggle between them and I can tell SAS to print the results only in one of those windows. But let us go to the classic view in the output window, where we can see that SAS has produced the parameter estimates over here, which are exactly the same as the ones that we had earlier when we solved it by hand. You can see here 528 is the coefficient for the constant, 0.74, 110, and minus 1.34 are the coefficients for our variables. And we have over here also the standard errors as we estimated them and the standard errors in SAS. You'll find that all the results are the same. And you can also view the results in the results viewer section. I've just maximized this, where you have the ANOVA table, you have the adjusted R-square again, and right down here you have the parameter estimates, the standard errors, the t-values, and the probability values. SAS is going to provide you in this case with some additional information such as the residuals, the predicted values, but you can get all of this information if you ask SAS with the simple viewer in the output window. So that's it for now. In the next videos, we will proceed to replicate the results with Eviews and with SPSS.